Can you hear me? Now you can. Okay. Hi, my name is Anna Thurston. Thank you for coming out, for joining us. It's December, and we kind of anticipated a smaller audience, and you're here, though. It's kind of nice to see you. Thank you for coming. We have fun speakers this evening, and I think they show that Tacoma's got something going on that is useful to us and good for the surrounds. So we have three speakers, Kevin Johnson, Arly Hyatt, and Angie Jossy this evening. Our first speaker, Kevin Johnson, was born and raised in Merritt Island, Florida, where he first found his passion for the outdoors while exploring lagoons and swamps beyond his backyard. Sounds like fun. Pursuing a bachelor's in environmental science from the University of South Florida in 2017, Kevin carried this love of being outside into adulthood. After graduating, but before he ran full force into a career, he completed a through hike of the Appalachian Trail. It was here he solidified his desire to help preserve and restore the natural lands of our beautiful country. You go, Kev. I'm so proud of you. From the Appalachians, Kevin took on a role with a small organization in Florida where he aided East Coast wetland restoration projects. That's a mouthful. He then headed west to Colorado, where his work in 2020 included riparian habitat restoration, improving the Colorado River corridor throughout the state of Colorado. After 2 years there, Kevin checked off another box on his bucket list by accepting a ranger position with Grand Teton National Park. He was telling me about that earlier this evening. That was fun. It was here that Kevin not only developed his passion for environmentalism, but also a love of fostering and channeling other people's passions for preserving green spaces. Kevin then accepted a role with Metro Parks Tacoma in October of 22, where he has been able to do all of that. That's a great deal. Now, with the help of many volunteers and community folks, such as yourselves, Kevin helps shape restoration efforts with Metro Parks, open spaces, within them mostly. Kevin currently lives in Hilltop with his partner Alexis, and he's excited to be a contributing member to such a caring and involved community. Tonight, he's here to tell us all about his restoration activities, possibly some of which are at Swan Creek. And since we are without visual on this, I'm going to do an open volley of Q&A. So if you have questions, we would love to hear about it. So raise your hand if you have a question, and I will have a microphone, and I might ask a couple. Come up. And so just so you know, tripod, 3 speakers, third Friday, all the threes that we have. We have up to 15 minutes to burn it off. There you go, Kevin.
All right, thank you. Hi there. Let me adjust this. Okay, yeah. Can you all hear me? Yeah. There we are. All right. Well, thank you for having me. And I sincerely apologize. My work laptop, where my entire life lives, decided that to turn off this week and that it didn't want to turn back on again. And so my poor IT team, our poor IT team, they were stressing and sweating, trying to get it fixed before they were off the clock today, but weren't able to. So that was my fault. It was avoidable. But hopefully I can still keep you interested and captivated by explaining just what we're doing, what I do with Metro Parks, and how that relates to you and your community. So like Anna said, I've been with Metro Parks since October of last year. I'm the Community and Special Projects Coordinator, which is kind of like a fancy term for saying I mostly work and coordinate with volunteers. I also co-coordinate the Chip-In program, And if you're unfamiliar with that, it's an acronym. CHIP stands for Communities Helping Improve Parks. And that program was started in 2003 in Tacoma. Back then, the district didn't have the funds to staff their own restoration team or natural resources crew. So we kind of created this social agreement with the people of Tacoma that they would come in and help volunteer and aid us in those efforts. Since then, that program's grown pretty wide. And just for reference, what that covers, we deal with the restoration in the natural areas specifically in our parks. And throughout our community and neighborhood parks, there are 17 parks with natural areas totaling over 2,200 acres. So that's a pretty big undertaking, especially because we haven't acquired those funds for a natural resources team in some years. So the community's help and involvement is super pertinent to what we do and absolutely necessary. I would say volunteer hours account for 90+% of the restoration work that currently gets done in our parks. So it's an awesome program. We are continuing to invest more money and funds into it, as well as other ways to improve our green spaces and keep them more sustainable. And I just want to talk about how we've been doing that, how we're going to continue to do that, and then how maybe you can get involved or people you know that could get involved, and then maybe open up for some questions. So real quick. So we do a lot of different activities or projects to carry out these restoration projects. And so a large amount of our volunteers come from schools, organizations in the community that have like service days or want to do regular service projects with us. We work a lot with the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts. And so that can be anywhere from like one volunteer per event all the way up to 400 people we've had at a restoration site just pulling, Scotch broom out of the ground. So we're really thankful for those people in the community that come out to us, and fortunately we're able to go out to them and seek out that support. So 2023, I like to call it the year of the pollinator plant because we planted a lot of them within our parks this year. As a lot of you know, COVID did a lot for a lot of the local government organizations, and a lot fell by the wayside in the natural areas within our parks, just because maintenance staff was understaffed, our volunteers weren't participating, we weren't hosting the work parties. So we kind of started fresh this year and determined priority areas to restore within these parks, and then kind of just went from there. So we do work with volunteer stewards. We do have stewards at all 17 of our restoration sites, and they volunteer all of their time, some 8 hours a month, some over 100 hours a month. And so they have direct conversations with us and impact on the restoration work that gets done within these parks. So we kind of just kept that rapport going, figured out the priority areas for restoring, and then carried it out from there. So a few highlights of that. So one of our biggest events is Parks Appreciation Day, which happens on Earth Day, coming up in April. This past year, we were less focused on the natural areas due to staffing transitions, and more so of the park aesthetics themselves. So it was held at Wright Park this past year, and we enlisted all the volunteers to help remulch some of the trees, reapply some fiber to the playgrounds, add some gravel to the paths that go around the park. And so a lot of the volunteer work extends to the maintenance kind of operations as well. Going into the summer, we have a lot of school events into the summer and fall. Or I'm sorry, I should say Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, school's out. And so they usually send about 100 to 500 troop scouts to us to carry out various projects. We work a little closer with the Girl Scouts, and then the Boy Scouts are a little more autonomous. We have our Soda Day of Caring in the fall, where the Soda School sends about 400 students to help us for about half of a school day. And so you're really talking about anywhere from 10 to 12,000 volunteer hours a year just within our community and neighborhood parks, which is a significant amount of time that's being donated. And then one of our last big events of the year, and one of the ones I'm happiest about, was Green Tacoma Day, which occurred on October 14th. So the site I led was at Swan Creek. In the restoration sites, we set aside about a 1,600 square foot plot that was kind of being run over by Scotch broom, and it was an open prairie area, and we kind of, in work with the steward, came up with this idea to establish a camas prairie there. And so going back a little bit history-wise, Swan Creek used to be land that was owned by the coastal tribes here, the Puyallup tribe. And after it had transitioned into park hands, even members of the tribe lived down along the creek And that's how the park kind of got its name, or Swan Creek got its name. John Swan owned the land along the creek, and him and his wife stewarded there and homesteaded there for years. Camas was a very vital nutrient and resource for the tribes, and so they grew it and cultivated it there in that park. But since their land was taken away from them, they were extricated from a lot of their homes across the state. Those Camas prairies and fields have largely gone away. And so keeping that wish and that hope in mind from the tribe, that we tried to, in spirit, keep in kind with their stewardship that they had carried out in the past. And we were able to do that, and a large part of that was thanks to Anna, who was nice enough to donate thousands of Camas bulbs that literally myself and the steward went into her front yard and dug them out of the ground and filled a bunch of potters with them. Yeah, sure.
Can you tell us what Camas is for those of us who are ignorant?
Yeah, so she asked what Camas is. I'm going to actually defer to you on that because you can give a way better explanation if you don't mind.
Okay, an answer right now. What Camas is a tulip-like bulb, but it's about as big as the tip of my thumb. And that's a big one. And that might be the taller one. And there's a shorter one that grows mostly here. The taller one would be in more Oregon area. And they're both a spike flower with lilies that are dark blue or kind of light blue. And so you get a spike either this big or this big. And some of them can even be white.
How do you spell it?
Camas, C-A-M-A-S, Camas. Or the botanical name is different.
And you eat the bulb.
Well, yeah, you eat the bulb, but be sure that if you did that, you cook the heck out of it, because it'll give you really good gas. It's got lots of gas stuff in it. You wouldn't want to do that.
So is it mostly the bulb you eat, or the stem and flowers you eat too?
I don't think the stems or the flowers were eaten. The seeds seeds that develop from the flowers are plentiful, and they're worth throwing around because then you get a bigger Camas patch. Because each bulb puts out a lot of little seedlets that way. And, that much color in the spring, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, that's okay. That was, like I said, that was a better explanation than what I could have given. And it was important to the tribes because they did use it as a food source with the roots and a source of medicine. And so along with that, we tried to plant a diverse range of pollinators with them. So just in potted plants, we had a variety of 12 different pollinators. So yarrow, solidago, cow parsnip, there was a lot. Chocolate lily, rose checker mallow, and some of that still donated by Anna herself. So we were very appreciative of that. And then we were also able to plant a stand of Gary oak, which made me really happy. So the tribes also used to steward Gary oak and cultivate them and ensured their health throughout Western Washington as well. And for those of you that don't know, one of our parks, Oak Tree Park, is home to one of the last old growth Gary oak stands in Western Washington. So we're trying to reestablish some of those stands, recognizing that they will be the size of the ones at Oak Tree Park long after we're all gone, even after I'm gone. But it's just buying into the mission in hopes that somebody is going to reap the benefits of those someday. So we got about 30 of those Gary oak in the ground just within that small prairie area. And over these next few years, as our participation increases and our investment, Metro Parks investment in these programs increases, you're going to see that spread a lot farther throughout that park. And our hopes are full establishment of that prairie. Hopefully 2026 is when you'll see it thriving, full of the insects pollinating, is our vision. Yes.
Question about the question for the audience. Can you tell us, please, what how many trees in that prairie area are you going to plant? Is it going to be like an orchard, or is it going to have a open and closed kind of habitat?
Where is the park?
Yes, that's a good question.
Oh, great. Yeah. So not everybody is familiar with our parks. Yeah. So Swan Creek exists on the east side of Tacoma. It's the easiest way to access most of the park is off of 44th Street and East T. It's in the Salishan neighborhood behind Lister Elementary. That's the dog park entrance. If you go all the way from there, if you go straight back to where the mountain bike trails are, you'll see like a little kind of construction area, and it's a little hidden. It's behind there, and you'll see a big open field. And if you go back there and you look hard enough, there's about 300 western red cedars and sequoias that have been planted in years past by us. And then the intention was that that little prairie, for now, is going to kind of remain a little hidden and not drawn so much attention to, because we have had issues of vandalism at Swan Creek in the past. Some of the more visible restoration areas we've worked have just been destroyed for whatever reason. People like to rip the trees out of the ground. We planted 150 trees near the garden, community garden on the other side of the park. They were all stolen.
Those are not cheap.
Yeah, so we've had to kind of get creative about our restoration efforts, and some of them had to have been a little bit more incognito. But this was a project that we invested a lot of time and money into, so I do go back and check on that site weekly, and I can say it has remained undisturbed. So yeah, we're super proud of it, and really hope that we can continue to invest the time and staffing hours into it to realize the ultimate vision, which I know most of you aren't familiar with that area, but it's a big open area, and if we could add tree line to that entire area, which would not be sort of like an orchard, it would kind of be more in a natural landscape. That would be my ultimate goal, is to add a canopy to that entire open field eventually, and there's a great trail that goes right through it too. So, yeah, naturalized trees, nothing manicured. I try not to do. Anytime we do plantings, we try not to make them look like they were man-made. And we try to naturalize them as much as possible.
But the oak park, where is that?
Oh, Oak Tree Park, yes, sorry. Okay, so that's South Tacoma. And I believe, off of 84th Street and South Cedar?
Cedar.
Yeah, 84th and South Cedar. And that has a couple of different Gary Oak stands, and what's interesting about that park is we had a stewardship plan approved in 2020 in partnership with the City of Tacoma and Earth Corps. And that was just kind of to assess the health of the ecosystem and come up with a management plan to maintain the health. And that's actually one of the parks where we actually combat the growth of Douglas firs. Because Douglas firs, yes, we have to mitigate the percentage of Douglas firs that exist in that park, because if they get above a certain threshold, percentage-wise, they'll outcompete the Gary Oak. And so we do maintain that population there. And then we also deal with, it's only the park that has cyclamen in it that spreads,
Cyclamen is
unfortunately. So yeah, and it's been kind of fun. Each natural area has its own unique properties and characteristics. Cyclamen is kind of, a lot of people use it as an ornamental plant and keep it in pots in their house and stuff. And I guess somebody decided it would look nice in a park. And now they're everywhere, but they're really easy to extract. You just scoop them right up, and you can take the bulb home, and that's what we try to get the students to do every time they.
Get more of 'em.
Yeah. Yes.
How have you been able to keep things wet this summer? It was pretty dry.
Oh, great question. Yeah. So.
How to keep it wet while things are dry?
Yeah. So we hired 2 urban habitat restoration specialists this summer. Granted, it was a little late in the summer. We would have liked to get them on earlier, but we weren't able to. And literally from May to the end of August, they spend their entire week watering our restoration areas. So whenever we plant trees in a natural area, we put them on a 3-year watering cycle during the summer. After the 3rd year, we leave them be. Depending on when we plant the pollinator prairies and stands and meadows and things like that, we might not even have to water them at all if we get them in the ground early enough in the winter. So it all kind of depends, but that's how they spend their entire summers, in the watering truck going from park to park. So that's also been another task. Like, we could have a whole team just doing that, right? So for a season, but they've been doing great. And luckily, we've had a pretty good success rate this year with what we planted from last year compared to the years past. So.
Are those the same oak trees that are out on the prairie by Fort Lewis? Is that?
Quite possibly, yeah.
Are they the same as the oak trees on the
By Fort Lewis?
by Fort Lewis? And yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, oak tree is pretty close to that, pretty close to the base too.
You know, the definition of how close is close enough to be a native plant or a progeny of a particular species is really getting kind of very busy in defining itself now.
Yeah, and so Washington has identified Gary oak as a priority species because it is the only native oak that exists in Washington.
Good questions.
Garry, scientific name Quercus garryana, but that's harder to spell. I think it's also called white oak. Some people call it. Yes.
So does Metro Park
Yes, the city of Tacoma specifically has a goal of increasing the tree canopy from 20 to 30% by, I want to say it was 2030 was the goal. I'm not exactly sure. And because of COVID, some of our partnership with the city has, some of those discussions and like monitoring has gone away, and we're working on renewing like our MOUs and contracts to manage those kind of shared spaces and get back on track with making sure that we're meeting that goal of increasing 20 to 30%, because as far as I know, coming into this role of the last year, we have not been specifically tracking that percentage as it increases year to year. I will say for the trees that we do plant specifically, we do have at least a 90% success rate for the ones we do plant in the ground. Yeah. Any other questions? I know it was kind of like I threw a lot at you fast. Yeah, and I will do the community aspect. So a lot of my job is getting out there into the community and getting the word out about Chip-In, and also all of the other volunteer programs that we have in Metro Parks. A lot of the volunteer work that is served within our organization is vital to the community. We do host regular work parties. So every Saturday we have work parties at different various parks. And then to accommodate other people's schedules, we do have one now on a Friday at Ursich. And the Swan Creek Work Party is the first Sunday of every month. I don't expect you all to remember this, but Metro Parks website, it is very easy to find. You just click the volunteer tab, which is right in front of your face as soon as you get to our website. So there really is an opportunity for everybody, and we have something to do for all ages, right? We get a lot of families and kids that come out. I don't want to give a 4-year-old loppers, right? So, but they can hand pull ivy, right? That's an easy task. And once ivy's off the ground and you keep it off the ground, it kind of stays out of the way. So I would implore all of you, if you can, spread the word about Chip-In and Metro Parks, and I hope that you think of us when you see our signs in the parks, or if you see a restoration area that might have looked like it was cleaned up, or even if you see us in the volunteers in the parks. Say hi and show those volunteers your appreciation, because we would literally get nothing done in the field of restoration if it wasn't for our community members being willing to donate that time. So I'm super grateful and excited for the partnerships we've built and kind of where we're headed in the future. And as we, I still consider myself new to this role. A lot of these projects come with their complexities and a lot to wrap your mind around, right? Wetland restrictions, critical area restrictions, regulations, and things like that. But as I learn more and ingrain myself into this program and organization more, my goal is to extend it to its maximum potential. So I'm hoping that you all will help support that. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Nice look at what's happening with our parks locally. And it's really actually very gratifying, because yours truly got to be one of the first people to provide steward trainings in Tacoma at the Nature Center. And so here, this is the culmination of that program that played out twice. And his boss was the first. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. I think I'm only allowed to use one of these at a time. Okay. Okay, now for the next program, Arly Hyatt, who identifies with the pronouns they and them, has been a public servant, offering more than 25 years for the public good. They recently joined the city of Tacoma as the assistant division manager in the Tidy Up Tacoma program. Prior to joining the city, Arly worked for the State Department of Health in several different roles. These included Emergency Preparedness and Response Office Director. Oh, now that's embarrassing. Really? That's good. Save your butt that way. Not really. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, Arly. Prior to joining the city, Arly worked for the State Department of Health in several different roles. These included Emergency Preparedness and Response Office Director, Capacity Development Program Manager and Drinking Water, and Regional Sanitarian. In these roles, Arly demonstrated their commitment to service above self and the agency's mission of working with others to protect and improve the health of all people in Washington state. In addition to their work experience, Arly brings a dedication to education to their new role. Arly completed their Bachelor of Science in Environmental Sciences at the Evergreen State College and recently completed their Master of Science in Organizational Leadership at Eastern Washington University. In addition, they are a registered sanitarian in the state of Washington. On a personal note, Arly enjoys traveling and just returned from a month-long trip to Iceland, Holland, and Ireland. I want to go. They're an avid e-biker and love reading and cooking. They just moved to Tacoma with their wife and 2 dogs, and they look forward to getting more involved in their new community. Arly, thanks for being here.
Are they going to control
Erik,
the?
are we ready for visual?
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me. As Anna said, I just started with the city, started in July of this year, and I'm here to talk to you about litter and garbage. Super sexy conversation we're gonna have. I take it you enjoy photographs, that's why you asked for images. So we're gonna see kind of the darker underbelly of the city and talk about what my program is doing to correct this problem. And then I'll field your questions. So first, let's start with what is litter? And why? Why do we care so much about it? So I'm gonna use litter and garbage and trash interchangeably tonight, even though they're defined differently under the law, because it's just so much easier to talk about. So while this might be...
Keep the mic in front of you.
I'm sorry. Sure. Is that better? Oh. Yeah, okay, I can hear it now. All right, sorry about that. So why do we care about litter? Litter causes pollution as it degrades and releases chemicals and microparticles into our environment. Sorry, I'm not used to talking this way. Maybe I can turn... Maybe I can turn a little bit there. That might be easier for me. Okay, so as it degrades, it releases chemicals and microparticles into our environment. They estimate that about 60% of water pollution is caused by litter. And litter facilitates the spread of disease, both by direct contact with the litter as well as indirectly through insects and animals that might pass along the diseases to us. Litter also kills wildlife, and they estimate about 8 million tons of plastic waste enters our oceans each year. Litter impacts our communities in a number of different ways. It causes its own physical dangers to us. It lowers our property values. It leads to more littering. It's expensive to clean up, and Keep America Beautiful estimates that we're spending about $11.5 billion a year to clean up garbage and litter in our country. So it's a problem. And these photos are showing you kind of a cross-section of what we're finding out in our community now. These are all taken from this year. The Tidy Up Tacoma program is the result of a community desire for cleaner public spaces. The city council approved a tax on solid waste services that went into effect in April of this year, And our program funds a number of different activities with those dollars. We fund litter cleanup, illegally dumped garbage and debris from our public spaces. We fund trail maintenance and graffiti mitigation. We fund maintenance and expansion of our public litter can program in our business districts. So the Tidy Up Tacoma program is small but mighty. We consist of about 6 people. We have a couple of trucks that go out and pick up illegal dumps, larger piles of debris and larger pieces of debris. And we also have a full-time litter crew that goes around the city and cleans up litter, full-time. So we're mighty because in 2023, we cleaned up nearly 1 million pounds of litter from public spaces since April. So our program also contracts with a couple of different contractors to clean up around homeless encampments, both in the encampment and around the encampment, and then they clean up after they leave. So we've been cleaning that up, and then we cleaned up about 3.5 million pounds of litter that way through our contracts this year. It's huge. So, but our city is about 50 square miles, so there's no way our team of 6 is going to be able to keep it clean. So what that means is the future of our program, we're looking at technologies to increase our efficiencies. And I would have some videos of what technology we're looking into purchasing, but we haven't actually bought them yet. And they're only on YouTube, and so I couldn't bring a link to share with you tonight, or I would be sharing those videos. But keep your eyes peeled on our webpage. At some point you will see the vehicles we're talking about. So one, for example, would be a litter vacuum. One person can operate the vacuum and another person operates the trailer that moves along with that person. And those vacuums are able to clean up 5 times more garbage than a single person alone. So that will significantly increase our ability to clean litter and garbage in our community. So keep your eyes peeled on our webpage. We have a data dashboard where you can keep track of what we're cleaning and how quickly we're cleaning it up. We have total volume of material collected on that, and we also show where in the city we've cleaned it up. And our webpage is easy to get to. It's at thecityoftacoma.org/tidyup. And you can go there and learn a lot more about our program and other programs that you can get involved in. So I put these in order, showing you kind of what we're seeing. And then I've got a few photos of our crew out there working. And you can see how inefficient it is to pick up garbage with those grabbers. And they're filling can after can after can all day long with those. It's pretty incredible work. They're an amazing team. And I put together some before and after photos so you can see what we've done in the community, what we found, how we cleaned it up, how we left it when we went. And I think these really tell a story about what we're doing in our community. And I'm really proud of our small, tiny team and the incredible work they're doing. Maybe you're seeing places that you visit or areas in your own neighborhood that have been cleaned up by this team. Pretty incredible work.
Definitely recognize some of those spots.
All right, and there's 4 members of the team that were willing to get on camera and get their pictures taken for us to share with you. So other things that we're up to, we just finished an engagement period with the public to try and find out what the highest priorities are for cleanup, what activities we should really target, and where in the city we should target those activities the most. Who's in the most, where is the biggest need, I guess. So we've got that information, we're processing it, And that will help inform where we head, how we send our crews out, and how often they hit different areas within the city. In addition, there are ways for you to get involved if you're interested. Like I said, we can't be everywhere at once. And if you want to report an illegal dump or garbage that you see in the community, dial 311 if you're in the city. 311 will take your complaint, you tell them where it's at, and we will come out and clean it up. Easy as that. You can also use Tacoma First 311 online if you'd prefer to do an online complaint. That's great too. We also have a couple of other programs that I'd like to talk about because when I come out and talk to folks, they often don't know about these programs. So one program is the Call to Haul program, where we will come out up to twice a year and remove up to 3 large items and up to 15 small boxes or bags for free to all single-family residences. So you can call us, we'll come pick it up, no charge. And by large items, I mean mattresses, refrigerators, that sort of thing. So it's a great resource, and folks need to be using it. The other I would like to talk about is Adopt a Spot. Again, there's no way we're going to hit every single street in this city with our tiny team. So Adopt a Spot is a great way for the community to get involved. And they get grabbers, they get vests, they get gloves, they get bags. You fill those bags, you leave them, you tell us where they're at, we come pick them up. And you can do that 4 times a year in one spot, or you can do one-off events. We call it litter patrol. And you can get all that equipment and go get a group of folks together and pick up some garbage and leave it, and we'll come get it. So those are some options. Spread the word. Tell your friends about Call to Haul. Tell your friends about 311. A lot of people I talk to don't understand that they can make those calls and get garbage cleaned up from their neighborhood. So just getting the word out, and I'm happy to take any questions you might have about our program. Yes, ma'am.
I would like you to compliment your Call to Haul people.
I will absolutely do that.
I would like, Eric? It's not on.
I would like you to compliment your Call to Haul people. Much to my amazement, about 10 days ago now, the people who live across the street from us brought out what looked like a very large cabinet and left it, a huge, probably 10 feet tall and maybe 6 or 7 feet wide in various pieces. And it was there for 2 days, and then the Call to Haul truck arrived. And I watched absolutely gobsmacked at the care that they exercised attaching this big grabber thing to this whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And I mean, nobody was in any hurry. Everybody checked all sides to make sure that it was right, and then very carefully picked it up and took it across and didn't drop it in the truck, set it down very carefully. I was just totally amazed at the care and attention that those people doing that, provided. It was impressive.
I'll be happy to pass that along. Thank you. Anyone else?
I live near a great beach, and it's a pretty perfect beach, except there are like 20, 30 tires there. It is just horrible.
What beach is that?
It's sort of over near Dumas Bay and Dash Point State Park, which is not your territory, unfortunately. But do you have any idea that, you just want it? Go ahead. Any idea how to get rid of them?
That is a great question.
I mean, once in a while I'll row one down the beach, but it takes me all day.
If they were in the city limits, we would come and get them. Absolutely, in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, we can't go outside the city limits.
It would be interesting to know who the other entities are in the county. Maybe if you look at Pierce County, King County. Sorry?
Yeah.
Wrong county.
There
You
may
gotta
be
go
someone
there.
at King County to call. I'm not aware of any of King County's programs. I don't know if they even have a program like Tidy Up. Yes.
I love the phrase, your tiny, tidy team. It's really cool. I was just curious, how many calls does the Call to Hall department get?
Oh, that's a great question, and I don't know how many calls Call to Hall gets in a year. I don't have those numbers, and we don't keep a data dashboard for Call to Hall either. I do know that about 6,000 residences use Call to Hall, so I don't know if they do every single year, and you can call up to twice a year, so that could be as many as 12,000 calls a year, based on the little bit I know.
Well, I was thinking, golly, it would be great for me to go out in my neighborhood and invite 10 people to call to Hall at the same time. It would save a lot of time and people's energy to go to one place and be able to get a lot of big stuff.
Absolutely, that would make it a lot more efficient.
Have you organized anything like that, or how do you get? Okay, so can I get a little flyer that says, "Call the Hall. This is what we do."
Absolutely. You can actually go to the website that I mentioned earlier, cityoftacoma.org/tidyup, and scroll down, and there are links to all of those other pages. Call to Hall. You can go down, you can call them. There's a number there, or you can go to their page and read about their information there. And I can follow up with Anna and send more information that way if you would like to get it out to the group. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wait, I have one.
Up until, I think, 2019, there used to be regularly scheduled neighborhood cleanups.
Yes, ma'am.
We had one on the hilltop in July, every July, where the people would, you'd bring in the huge dumpsters, and the Goodwill people would be there, and the, recycle people would be there. Does the city have any plans to bring those back at any point?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking it. We did used to do community cleanup, and we stopped doing it because the community wasn't getting cleaned up as a result. We weren't seeing actual streets cleaned up. So folks might have emptied out their attics and whatnot into the bins, but we weren't actually seeing community cleanup. So my team would love to partner with the different neighborhood councils on specific neighborhood cleanups where we have some metrics that we try to meet. Maybe we try to clean up so many streets. I'm happy to haul all of the stuff that would end up as potentially illegal dumps. We're happy to take that too. We just also want to clean up the neighborhood while we're at it. So hopefully that will come back in a different way. Instead of doing the entire city, maybe we can do one neighborhood at a time and really, really focus and see if we can't accomplish some big things with that. That'll be my goal.
Excellent. Questions? Any other? Yes, over here.
I use the 311 app, and let me tell you, that's very effective. I probably do at least twice a month something.
Fantastic.
A lot of garbage around our neighborhood. We benefit from one neighbor taking it upon herself to do self-patrol 2 or 3 blocks around the neighborhood. And so the streets are pretty well clean. It's just that once a homeless group gets in, but then we can report that, and 311 is very effective on a whole lot of things, including light outages, street light outage, and all kinds of things. But it's very effective, and it does seem like it reaches you too, right?
Absolutely. All illegal dumps and garbage go directly to our team. That's how we assign out work. So thanks for using the app, and thanks for mentioning the app. Anybody else have any questions?
Erik has a question upstairs.
Yeah?
Is any effort being made to go after the people for dumping all this
is any effort being made to go after people who are dumping the trash?
Perpetrators.
We have attempted to get illegal dumpers prosecuted, and that was in the past before my time. And I understand there were some challenges with that. They didn't end up getting prosecuted. After a recent presentation at City Council, I understand why. You have to prove that person in that vehicle dumped that garbage, which can be very challenging to do. So we go clean it up. But that being said, if you can prove that that is the person, one way or another, who dumped that garbage, then yes, we can hold them accountable. And community service is a feature of our justice system. So community service workers will be joining our team eventually also, and increasing the number of folks that we've got out in the field cleaning up. That's a goal as well. So absolutely, we'll be looking at ways to do that, but recognize that it's a challenge.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have hot spots around town that regularly get dumped? I know, I'm thinking of one myself, I'm not gonna pinpoint it, but do you have hot spots?
Absolutely, we do. Places that are easy to get to, places that are hard to see from roadways are absolutely hot spots. Alleyways are hot spots. So there's a number of places around town that we go out to again and again and again.
Good questions. Okay, we're right on schedule, actually.
All right. Well,
Well
thank
done,
you so
Arly.
much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. My thing is still up here. Okay, and before I forget, thank you, Arly. And I wasn't going to forget that. That was well done. Everybody has provided us with more information than I had anticipated. But I have another little trivial pursuit. Two things here. One thing that came across my email today was to Tacoma business owners. Make your voice heard. How many of you are business owners in the audience? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this was from the city of Tacoma. They send me stuff. I guess I'm enrolled. Town hall with at-large council member Olgi Diaz. Did I say that correctly? You're invited to share your perspective with her. She's developing a community-informed action plan to guide her work for the next 4 years. This is tomorrow the 16th, 11 a.m. to 12, and it's at the University of Washington Tacoma Milgard Hall on South C Street. If you want to learn about that, I have the flyer. It's here. You could look up the number and then whatever if you want. On the other side of this, I have a sign-in sheet. If you aren't getting our emails from Lynn in particular, this would be the place to add your name to her list. Alrighty, and this is going to be in the back for you. All right, to close out our evening, Angie Jossy, she calls herself the Duchess of Downtown. She's known for making things happen. She has nearly 2 decades of experience spanning a wide range of skills that include journalism, PR, marketing, graphic design, promotion, and event planning, all of which give her a unique perspective when putting her passionate, creative, and innovative thinking to work. Her career originated in a different corner of the universe as a technical support analyst in the corporate world, which involved solving computer issues and traveling throughout the United States to install software and to train employees. As a graphic designer, she has created websites, web ads, print ads, banners, signs, logos, flyers, event posters, and much more. Her creativity also shines through with her love of drawing hyper-realistic portraits of people and animals. She has also executed hundreds of freelance design projects. We're having fun over here, it sounds like. Angela's success can also be traced to a long history of planning and executing award-winning events hosted at such venues as the Speakeasy Arts Cooperative, Emerald Queen Casino, Hotel Murano, Tacoma Convention Center, plus Liberty and Admiral Theaters. Her festivals have been nothing short of spectacular, including the notable Art on the Ave, First Night, Tacoma Winterfest, and Point Defiance Music Festival. More recently, Angela served as Weekly VOLCANO Associate Editor. She is now a real estate investor, property manager, and the new owner of the Weekly VOLCANO newspaper. Throughout these roles, she has been a tireless advocate for artists, musicians, and small business owners. Her passion for Tacoma and improving its tourism and economic development, amplified by way of her use of digital and social media, add up. Angela's ability to stay ahead, Angela's ability to stay ahead of the curve in terms of marketing trends has been the key to her success. Her tenacity and ability to lead and organize events, staff, and resources has made her an invaluable asset to the companies and organizations she has served. Angela, please. Share that with you there.
Which one?
Either of these two, and actually the other way around. There you go. Okay.
Okay. Can everyone hear me? Hi. So I just threw some pictures together. They're just kind of there, but mostly I'm just going to go by these cards, okay? This used to be my resume. You can't read it, but it's cute, right? It's kind of cute. I liked it. It was one of my favorite ones. Okay. So I want to start by telling you the crazy synchronistic story of how I came to work for Weekly VOLCANO. My life is sort of like a Forrest Gump story of happenstance and luck and synchronicity. I had left my corporate job and I wanted to do website development. But the dot-com bubble burst and everyone thought that websites were a thing of the past. And so I couldn't get anybody to hire me to do websites, but I knew I had a feeling it was going to come back around. So I decided to go and get myself a retail job or something that I could, just do kind of on the side. I was a single parent and I just needed a little bit of security for money. So I was driving through the Lakewood Town Center looking to see if there was any places there that I might want to work. And I saw this sign. It said, "The Ranger." And I kind of had this vague idea that it was a newspaper, but I didn't really know. So I had just picked up my daughter from school. I was wearing my gray sweatpants with a hole in the knee, no makeup, hair wild, with my daughter. And I walked into this office. I still don't know what made me do this. I walked in there and I looked at the receptionist and I said, "You guys don't need any writers or anything like that, do you?" I don't know why I said that. I wasn't a journalist. I don't know why I said that. And just at that moment, Ron Swarner, owner of the Weekly VOLCANO, came out of his office and was just passing by and happened to hear me say those words. And he stopped and he looked at me and he said, "Well, what do you write about?" And I knew this was the wrong answer, but I said, "Music, but I could probably write about anything." See, I had this little newsletter that I'd been doing for my friends because I was a musician. And I noticed a lot of my musician friends, needed to get the word out about their music. And it was kind of a tough gig to get people to come to shows. So I was doing a little email newsletter to my friends. So that's why I said music. He said, "Do you have time for coffee?" And I said, okay. So my daughter and I and Ron Swarner walk over to the Starbucks. We're halfway there walking down the sidewalk. And he said, so why do you write about music? Are you a musician or something? And I said, yeah. And he said, do you have a band? And I said, yeah. And he said, what's it called? And I said, Angela Jossy Band. I knew he wouldn't know what it was. And he said, are you in any way affiliated with the Happy Friday Club newsletter? And I stopped and I looked at him. I was just shocked because I was only sending it to a few people, my friends. He had been reading it. Someone told him about it, and he had been reading it as a source for his new newspaper that he had just started called Weekly Volcano. And he hired me on the spot because he'd been reading it as a source of information. He already was familiar with my writing. He was a fan. So I got hired. And I worked my way up that tree, and I ended up doing pretty much every job in the place. I had graphic design background, so I laid out newspaper pages. I wrote 6 stories a week. I helped him out with the Ranger. I helped him out with the Airlifter, and I helped him out mostly with the Weekly Volcano. So it was just kind of a crazy story how I ended up working there. And I loved working there. I worked there for 5 years, and I worked my way up to associate editor. And then another calamity happened, and everyone was getting laid off in 2008. So I went freelance again. This is me the one time I was on the cover of the Volcano after I didn't work there anymore. Ron Swarner stayed with me as a friend through all my projects. He supported everything I did. This one's about a little project called Tacoma Art Bus. Some of you have been on the tour, I know. I also worked as a director of art on the Ave. I honestly have forgotten how many years. I think it's 4, maybe 5, but they weren't consecutive. So that's a picture of art on the Ave. I invented this game called Tacoma-opoly. It was a giant board game, and you had to answer questions about Tacoma. We had giant dice. It was really fun. That was at first night. We also did it at Art on the Ave. I made a giant checkerboard with my friend Sonia for Metro Parks, because they wanted a big checkerboard game for their festivals. My very first art show was at Tacoma Museum of Glass, because I thought to myself, what's the most impossible venue to get? Museum of Glass. I called and asked them. It wasn't even glass, and they said yes. How great is that? I did a deck of cards with Tacoma's well-known personalities. You might recognize that one. And I did a project called Art Doors, where we auctioned off doors that artists throughout Tacoma painted, and we raised money for charity. That was a display of them at Art on the Ave one year. This is Art Bus. I have so many photos just like this. I didn't know which one to choose, but that was the guy from the Vern Font commercials. Every tour, we had a different celebrity tour guide. So we always got to know some famous people, and we went to different art exhibits and played games and gave away prizes and appreciated art. That's another one. This was our famous Christmas tour with Ron Swarner as Buddy the Elf. Like I said, he has supported everything I did. Am I going backwards? I am. I'm going backwards. And that one, and that one. Okay, so then in the middle of this freelance period where I'm doing all these fun things, my friends and I decided that we wanted to have an art gallery / music venue. So we got 15 of our friends together. We rented a space on Broadway, and Speakeasy Arts Cooperative was born. We had so many amazing parties. I tried to find photos of them. They're all blurry. I can't imagine why. But we had literally dozens of amazing events there. But every politician in the state was in there once for a fundraiser for Julie Anderson. We did a fundraiser for Urban Arts Festival in there. We had tons of art parties and music events and CD release parties, and it was crazy. We were one of 5 galleries that King 5 magazine voted the best art galleries in Western Washington. That year we were in the top 5, and the only other gallery that was on there was Tacoma Art Museum, so we were pretty proud of that. And this is an award that we got from the Volcano for best art parties, as voted on by the readers of Weekly Volcano. And in that freelance period, I was also doing a lot of volunteer work with Go Local. I don't know if you guys remember that. Patricia Lacey Davis started that. It was to try to get people more familiar with why they should spend their money in our local communities to keep the money circulating locally. And I started something called shop253.com, which was an online marketplace where we could search for a product, like say you wanted to buy a hammer, and you could see every store that sold hammers in Tacoma. That was the goal anyway. We never quite got there. I'm going to start that again. Now we're going to pair it with Weekly Volcano in the future. But I wanted to make it so that we can't compete with Amazon and those kind of websites on price, but we can absolutely compete with them when it comes to convenience. Because if the product is local, you can get it faster. So we're going to be raising money to get that website going. I never gave up on that. And this is the layout of Art on the Ave Festival last year. As you can see, festivals are quite complicated. But this is beautiful to me. This is what I live for. We had 200 vendors, several music stages, and about 20,000 people had a great day. You can't beat that. And that was our stand so people could get their own picture on the cover of Weekly Volcano at last year's Art on the Ave. And that's Fred. If you don't know him, that's Fred Novak, local artist. He has a little mini show on our channels for Weekly Volcano. It's called Fred Finds. He goes to local shops and tells you about all the cool things that he finds. He's a doll. And this is an award I got in 2014. They called me the Best Art Scene MVP. Can't imagine why, but the readers voted for that. I'm only putting this in there because my friend told me it lends credibility. I don't know. I feel awkward about it. And another year, what year was that? 2011, they voted me as the best creative type. I think that means creative type person. I don't know.
Not fun.
Yeah. And then just so you don't think the Weekly Volcano is the only person or the only publication that liked my work, this is another one I got from the Business Examiner. When I was 39, I got to be their 40 under 40, just in the nick of time. I think that might be the last one. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to tell you what I really want to tell you. So I told you the story of how I became the Weekly Volcano associate editor, and I told you that I did freelancing, and I did festivals, and I told you about Speakeasy Arts Cooperative, and I told you about our bus tours on the third Thursday for Art Bus. I told you about Art Doors, and I told you about Go Local. So then I realized that I wasn't very good at money. Like, I was just like the typical starving artist, feast or famine. And it was bothering me because I felt like I didn't have the leverage to really make the impact that I wanted to have in the community. I needed a little bit of support underneath me so that I could really make my goals happen. So I took a real job. I got recruited by the low-income apartment building where I live now. It's called Hotel Olympus. I've lived there 14 years. I was recruited by the manager to work on a project, and then pretty soon they put me in charge of the whole building. And so I managed Hotel Olympus for 7.5 years. And if you don't know about Hotel Olympus, let me tell you, it is a fascinating building, and the history is phenomenal. I'm actually writing when I get time, I'm going to finish writing this book about the history of Hotel Olympus because it's really, really interesting. 9th and Pacific, 815 Pacific Avenue. If you know where the Forum restaurant is, that's in our lobby. It's right there, downtown. So I did the job, 7.5 years. I loved taking care of the people there. I loved the residents there. That job is, you kind of know way too much about the people because they have to disclose their financial stuff to you every year, and you have to ask them really intrusive questions. And so I ended up knowing all their problems and all their struggles and all their triumphs and their love triangles and like the whole thing, It was never boring. But it was really hard, and the pandemic made it harder, and I just started to experience burnout because I wasn't in my zone of genius. I wasn't able to do very much creatively. I was kind of dead at the end of the day, And so I was starting to experience burnout. And in the time that I'd worked there, I'd read a lot of books about real estate investing, and I got really involved in the Bigger Pockets podcast. Listening to podcasts really educated me on how money works, and I used that time at Hotel Olympus to live well beneath my means and to be able to buy a duplex and then another one eventually. And I was planning to buy a third one so that I could retire. I'm 52, so I'm getting up there, and I lived an artist's life, so let's just say I didn't really have much of a retirement plan, so this was my way of speeding up that process. And before I could buy that third duplex, I was just so burnt out on the job. that I just knew that my days were numbered. I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to wake up in the morning. I just wasn't enjoying life. I felt like I was in the wrong spot. I just felt like the universe was pushing me in a different direction. So I watched this video by this, I'm really a big fan of learning things on YouTube. And there's this video by this woman named Cody Sanchez, and she talks about buying boring businesses because a lot of people are retiring now and they don't really have a plan for their successful businesses. Legacy is not really happening with those kind of businesses. Young people aren't, they're going their own way. And so a lot of profitable businesses are just shutting down at a time when it's really expensive and difficult to get a business to that point. So she was making the excellent point that we should be talking to these business owners and buying these businesses so that we can keep them in our community. It's a pretty exciting time to be alive if you think about it. Whenever we decided to come down and live these lifetimes, we chose a very fascinating time to be alive. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, we have witnessed so many technological breakthroughs. Now we have AI. We're gonna see it all, right? It's just a crazy, crazy time to be alive. And I've noticed certain things happening. There's good parts about it and there's bad parts about it. And I feel like the corporations are really taking over the spotlight of everything. The smaller businesses are struggling more than ever. There's really no way to get the word out for a musician or an artist or a small business. Asking a small business to advertise is like asking them to gamble with their rent money. They just don't feel comfortable doing it. And that bothers me. I learned a lot from Trish when it comes to shopping local, and when I hear that, it makes me sad, because I like us to have more leverage in our society. I don't want us to be so dependent on corporations that it changes how we vote, and it changes how we operate our lives. They've made things so convenient for us that we forgot about each other. And our communities don't really talk to each other. They don't really know each other. Our youth is very depressed. They don't really have career ambitions anymore. They just want to stay home and play video games. And we just want to stay home and watch Netflix. And we're not connecting with each other. And people aren't bothering to make art or music because they think there's no way anyone's going to ever hear it unless they get famous on YouTube. And that's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not saying that you can't, but it's pretty tough. And a lot of people are hanging their hopes and dreams on social media, making them famous. And what happens is they end up, if they make any money at all, it's pennies. And they're, again, answering to a bigger brand. That's all they can hope for, is that they will get sponsorship from some bigger brand so that they can get money. I don't like this. So we've also lost local news. If you've noticed, our news coverage is very minimal. We've never really had our own news station in Tacoma. We get our news from Seattle, and they only write about us if something terrible happens. So it makes Tacoma sound like a cesspool. They don't talk about any of the good stuff that's happening around here. I'm really excited because Weekly Volcano, we're starting to get connected with the business districts and the neighborhoods so we can tell those cat in a tree stories. I was listening to a neighborhood meeting in Eastside, and I had gone to 2 meetings in a row, and if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't know this story about this snake. Apparently there was a snake that belonged to a homeless man who had a trailer in the Eastside, and he lost his snake, and everyone was worried about where the snake was. Where is it going to pop up? Who's it going to scare? Is it going to hurt somebody? So everyone's all anxious about the snake. And then the next week I went to another meeting, and they were talking about how they found what looked like a human grave inside of, I think it was Galt Middle School field. And they were saying they were going to have to go exhume it and find out if there was a body in there. Well, it turned out that that's where the snake ended up. And so, that's just a cute story, right? Everyone was all excited about, they thought they had a dead body, and they're all worried about the snake, and it ended up, poor snake, I'm sorry he had a bad end, but, I just love these neighborhood stories, and no one's telling these stories, and that's what we're trying to do. Not necessarily that, but you know what I'm saying. So we're trying to keep our community connected. So in a world full of clickbait headlines and divisive content, making us hate each other, hearing the same talking points on every news station, word for word, and local businesses are squeezed out. They can't afford to advertise on any of these channels. And there's just, I don't like it. So that was one of the reasons why I decided. I listened to Cody Sanchez talking about buying businesses. VOLCANO's not a boring business, but it was the only business that I really knew that I knew something about and that I could actually make something out of it. So I didn't realize how hard it was going to be when I first decided to do it, but they told me I was the only person they would have ever sold it to. So when I found that out, I knew I had to do it. Because if I had it in my power to do this thing that I believe that Tacoma really needs, and I didn't do it, what kind of person does that make me? So I said, I gotta try. So I didn't buy a third duplex. I bought Weekly Volcano. And me and my friends are faking it till we make it. We've published 3 newspapers and 3 event programs. We did 3 event programs in the summer just to get the engines going. We did Art on the Ave, Hilltop Street Fair, and Mosaic, which you might know as Ethnic Fest. So what I want to say to you is that we as a community are an ocean, and we are being split into puddles. They're dividing us up into little subgroups, and they do that because puddles do not make waves. So I am trying to put everything back together and build our community so that we can make waves on things that matter to us. And now, another important thing about the volcano is that all of the issues of the volcano, I bought the whole archive too, and all of it's going to the Pacific Northwest room. So all of those stories that we've written all of these years about all our artists and musicians and small business owners, that's going to go into our history. Because we are now the ancestors to future generations, and they need to know what we were thinking about, what was important to us, what were we tickled by, what did we hate, right? I take that responsibility really seriously. I like the thought of thinking of us as the ancestors to future generations and making sure that our stories are being told by us. I think that's pretty important. So Weekly Volcano is a uniting force with local stories told by local people. It spreads hope and inspiration. I want it to be a light in the dark. We are printing once a month. Once a week was too much for me. We're printing once a month. We print 8,000 copies throughout Tacoma, Pierce County, and we're growing our distribution sites all the time. We got people out there finding new spots for us all the time. We have a weekly email newsletter, which I would like you all to subscribe to and tell all of your friends to subscribe to it. It's new, it's not great yet, it's okay, but I have big plans for the future. So stick with us. We need more numbers. The bigger our distribution of our email newsletter, the more advertisers we will attract, the more money we have, the more people I can hire, the more talent I can bring to the table, and the more impact we can have. We have social media on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We have 2 TV shows that we call them mini shows. Fred Finds, which is what I told you before about Fred, and then Phoenix and Friends. It's about animals. Phoenix loves animals, and she goes and visits animals and talks about animals. It's wholesome. It's cute. You'll love it. We have a free online calendar on our website. We're very proud of how comprehensive it is. Pretty much anything going on anywhere in Tacoma, Pierce County, you will find it on our calendar. And if you don't, tell me. We have an email address called calendar@weekly-volcano.com. It's always free to put events on our calendar. Please help us keep that calendar as populated with everything, everywhere, all the time. We have many of the same writers and a few new ones. We need more advertisers. Our cheapest ads are $175 a month, and they're pretty big ads. So I'm looking for businesses that will support us by at least buying our smallest ad once a month. If I can get enough of those, I can have a good base to work from. I cannot spend my time begging people to buy ads for us. I need to spend my time making the content better and better. I need to spend that time finding these stories, telling these stories, bringing in more talent. So I need everyone's help to get the businesses to understand they need to support this now
in the newspaper.
You must think I'm nuts. I am a little nuts. I gave up a secure job.
Yeah, you're a risk taker. So explain, were the 3 newspapers all together as one? The Ranger, the Volcano, and whatever the other one was?
Airlifter.
Yeah.
They were separate. At first, the Volcano was an entertainment section of the Ranger, and then it, as Ron grew it, he made it into its own newspaper, and it was his own newspaper for a while. But then when Ron let his brother buy him out, and he went to buy Peaks and Pints in Proctor, the Volcano kind of never had the same energy behind it. Ron was the one with the real vision there. And so it kind of became an entertainment section of the Ranger again, and then it kind of dwindled, and they didn't really care about it. Their money was really being made by the military audience, quite frankly. People wanted to buy ads to get in front of the military, so the Volcano wasn't really selling enough ads to really support that, because if you give someone a choice between a paper that goes on base, for people who don't, they're very much recession-proof, their pay never changes, they always have money, people wanted to get in front of those advertisers, so the Volcano was kind of the redheaded stepchild, and it never really had the support that it needed. But I have faith in Tacoma that Tacoma will support this if they understand what's at stake. And I think now more than ever, we're seeing that. We understand why we need our own news.
Yeah, absolutely. This graphic is fabulous. This is new, isn't it?
Well, it's the same logo. I just put it with an AI mountain. I didn't want to put a volcano because it's scary. I don't want people to think we're going to explode. I don't even want to manifest any exploding volcanoes. It's a dormant one. It's dormant.
I love it. I love it. So
we come in peace.
how do you distinguish yourself then from the Tacoma Weekly, and or is there collaboration or what between the 2 newspapers?
I mean, they're really different. They have a different personality. Weekly Volcano has always been friend to the artist, musician, nightlife scene, and not as news heavy as the Tacoma Weekly used to be. And I'm not really that familiar with what the Tacoma Weekly is doing now. I did hear that they're only printing every other week now, and it's very thin. So I don't know how much longer we're going to have the Tacoma Weekly at all.
Are you going to become a 501c3 newspaper?
We are considering it. It's definitely under consideration.
I just go back to it. There was, this is just a, no.
Well, it's being recorded. We need to hear your voice.
Yeah, not really. Following Katrina, there was a documentary on, I don't know if it was PBS or it was one of the commercial channels, about the in bold type, the communication avenues for the people of the surrounding areas there were the little tiny local radio stations and the local small newspapers. And I've never forgotten that there was a man they interviewed who talked about the stories that he was able to write by just going around and talking about what was going on locally. I mean, we bought the Tacoma News Tribune until they won't deliver it to us anymore for exorbitant money anyway, so.
Yeah, Weekly Volcano
Good luck.
is free, and it will remain free.
So how do we access?
We deliver it to coffee shops, bars, and high-traffic locations throughout Tacoma. And if you go to weekly-volcano.com, we have to do the dash because they gave up all the social media sites and the domain name because they were never going to bring back the Volcano. So I had to start from zero. And so the Volcano's web address has a dash in it, and we just say that dash in the middle. That's where we put the love in. So it's weekly-volcano.com. And there's a list of the locations of where we're dropping off newspapers, and we're growing that list every day. But today, they're in the back of this room for you.
For you.
What?
Are they at the Grand?
Yes,
Yeah.
Grand Cinema, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Grand Cinema is a big
Are they at the
supporter of
Grand?
us.
Okay.
So is Tacoma Arts Live. So is Travel Tacoma. We've got a lot of support in the community. There's not a lot of money right now, but it's beloved. The Weekly Volcano is a beloved brand, And I believe that if we can survive long enough, we will get the support that we need to make it a viable business. Sure.
So are you theoretically maybe going to drop the weekly off of there and just call it the Volcano?
No, because we still have our weekly email newsletter.
Oh, okay.
So we are sending you content weekly.
Yeah, I
And
get
someday
it.
we might get back to printing weekly. We don't know yet.
Okay, I get the email, so.
Oh, thank you for subscribing.
Did you deliver to Northeast Tacoma or Browns Point?
We have a couple locations, but we need to get more. If you have suggestions on good places, I'd love to talk to you afterwards.
Other questions? Good questions.
Please bring them to Red Elm.
Red Elm?
Red Elm on the
Okay.
hilltop. Place to meet and greet,
Yeah.
maybe eat. Everybody, a big warm hand for Angela. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you so much. Lots to know about Tacoma. And there are a lot of good things happening right now. I hope you'll join me for further munching of things in the back, maybe a little meet and greet before we close it up for the evening, but I'm glad you could join us. And in January, Lynn has plans, I think. I think she wants to do that pet show thing. Did any of you send in your favorite pet picture? Good, good. And if you are not getting the email or the Facebook, this sign-in sheet is also a way to get that. I'm in charge of that now. And if you have other ideas about people who you want to hear from, I'm all ears, and so is Lynn. So thank you for coming.
I'm going to talk about Australia in February.
Yes, I didn't know that. All right, thank you.
January is when
Oh,
I'll
the
be
Ja-
showing my
excuse me,
pictures of the rodeo.
The rodeo picture is one, and Erik is behind it. And then there are two other people. Do you remember the other two, Erik?
One is some sort of dance.
No, there's a
outfit.
tap dance.
Tap dancing, yes. And I
Oh,
don't-
and then I heard Dick Stein is coming. Yeah, he's gonna cap it off. Yeah, that ought to be kind of fun. In January, 3rd Friday. Be here. Thank you for coming. Good night. Oh my goodness. She came to get me. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Good.
I learned a lot.
Where do I pick up copies for what?
In the back seat over here.